Welcome to the jam.
We didn't say that. Did you say welcome to the jam at the beginning? Here, let's
I don't know. Welcome to the jam.
Are we still recording?
Welcome.
Are we still recording or we stop recording?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Let's keep
We're
recording.
going to do an overtime?
Yeah, let's do
This is
overtime,
our-
and maybe it'll turn into a second
This
podcast.
is our overtime.
Welcome to the jam with Crash and Church. I am
this
Church.
This is the overtime. This is the jam overtime.
You were supposed to say I am Crash.
Yeah, but you didn't say it
When
right.
I say
You
I
got to
am
say it
Church.
right. Okay, so welcome to the jam overtime with Crash and Church. I am Crash.
But we don't know for sure it's going to be an overtime. And
We just agreed a second
Church.
ago that it was going to be.
I
an
am
overtime.
sanctimoniously named Church because I am
Because you're churchful.
holier than
You
thou.
are churchful.
I am holier than thou.
And I crash and
sanctimoniously.
burn a lot.
So the reason that my nickname is Church, yours should be obvious if anyone just puts it together with your last name. It's pretty straightforward.
Yep.
Right?
Crash Landon.
Yeah. So mine is Charles turned into Chuck, and then as a Chuck, there was a typo once that wrote it as Church. And so all my buddies back in high school started calling me Church. They still do. We get together and they say, "Hey, Church." And so Church, the nickname. But my wife doesn't call me Church.
No,
so.
she calls you other things.
She calls me, "You jerk."
She said she
really.
sometimes she calls you, "Hey."
She goes, "Hey, you."
Hey.
Actually, you know what we call each other now is, which is so funny. We've been doing it since way before we had children, but we call each other Mommy and Daddy. And,
Mother. You're supposed to say mother. Mother.
Yeah. And we started doing it when we got a dog. We got Henrietta, our dog that's passed. She's passed now. She passed at 14 years old.
Oh, did Henry?
So
Why didn't you tell me?
I didn't tell you Henry passed? Yeah, we
Oh,
had to
wait a
put Henry
minute.
down.
Oh,
I'm
wait a
pretty
minute.
sure
No,
I did.
you did. This was a few months ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we had to put Henry
yeah.
down. She couldn't even
Bad
walk.
memory.
And so terribly
Yeah, really bad hip dysplasia.
terribly sad
Yeah.
because we loved, she was our baby
Yeah.
before we could have children, and so we loved her so much that she was our family, and so we started calling each other Mom.
You got
and
her
Daddy.
when you guys lived in the apartment over by the Walmart.
Yeah. And so yeah, it's funny. I'll go up and I'll say, "Hey, Mama," and she'll say, "Daddy." She calls down. She says, "Daddy."
You should say hot
stuff,
mama.
so. Yeah, hot mama,
Right.
and she should call
Hot
me
mama.
Daddy.
Chicken
She says it wrong. She always says Daddy, and what she should say is Daddy. Right?
Hey, Daddy.
Hey, Daddy.
Well, you'd be really concerned if she says, "All right now."
if she says it,
She sounds like
that
Barry
low.
White.
Very well.
Love.
I like my wife's voice. I'm glad her voice is not too deep and not too high and squealy. She has a good
She has a good
voice.
voice. She doesn't have that modern.
Level.
What's the modern yelling voice that a lot of the hip hop and
The New Yorker
oh my
voice.
gosh. Oh no. No, I'm talking about like all of the pop stars of today. They will sing these really high notes, but it sounds like they're screaming into a microphone. It is not Whitney Houston. They don't sound
Now,
like
wait a
Whitney
minute.
Houston.
Do you like James Dio?
Who's James Dio?
Is it James?
Who the heck is James Dio?
Dio. You know who Dio is?
From back in the day?
Yeah, Dio, the band, the singer, James Dio. You're not familiar?
I know who Metallica is. I know.
You just
I
offended
know who
half the metal
I
world
know who Boston
by
is.
only knowing Metallica.
I know who Boston is.
Google it, Dio.
Come on.
You'll
Van Halen.
you'll it's Ronnie James Dio is what it is.
Are you talking about DEO?
Dio.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah. You can
Dio.
You can have all kinds of people.
Ronnie James Dio. Okay, there he is. Wikipedia him to tell you everything. Anyway, he was a heavy metal singer, but he's saying "Wah!" like way up high.
Okay, heavy metal, totally different than pop. Michael Jackson never sang the way these pop stars sing. Look, if you want to have the most cringe-worthy singers, just watch like The Voice and America's Got Talent, or
I've lost interest in a lot
what's
of that
the other
stuff.
one?
I used
What's
to
the other
watch all
one?
that stuff 10 years ago. But
what was the other one that
Just America's Got Talent.
No, there was another one. What was the other one that what's his bucket did?
The biggest one that of course we ought to know. And I'm having one of those
we
brain
should
fart
know what
moments.
it is.
American Idol.
Look, they all sound the same. They're no different.
It's very saccharine, yeah. And there are standouts. There were standouts. I haven't watched it in 10 years, but the first 10 years it existed, we used to watch it. And there were standouts, and those standouts were always my favorite.
Yeah, they were the Miranda Lamberts, and they were the Carrie Underwoods. Yep.
Right.
And then you had a couple be in there, but for the most part, they all sound virtually exactly the same.
Right.
Not interested.
Hey, do you want to talk about Hollyweird?
Look, I don't think that we need to have any notes on it. We have talked about this subject so many times away from these microphones. We are both very well versed in.
Okay, well let me start with a question.
Okay.
Then. Okay, because this is
All right.
important.
Mm-hmm.
Kirk or Picard? Those are the only two you have the option between, because all the others are lame. But
okay, so it's Kirk. If you don't choose James Kirk,
yeah,
then you're a snowflake.
It's Kirk.
You're a snowflake.
Picard's awesome. I mean, I
Sure.
like Picard.
Sure.
But
Kirk
was great.
He didn't have
but,
Kirk's
so
panache.
in The Big Bang Theory, I can't remember how Leonard says it in The Big Bang Theory when he's asked that question, and he says, I think he says Picard over Kirk, but original trilogy over Next Generation was his answer. And then Sheldon says, correct. Yeah. And
original
says,
series
correct.
or original trilogy?
Original series. Sorry, I didn't mean trilogy. Were there 3 seasons? I think there were
three seasons, but they weren't. They weren't a movie.
It wasn't a trilogy.
It wasn't
Yeah.
a trilogy.
My daughter, by the way, she calls movies. She calls them seasons. So she'll say, I want to watch Frozen season 2.
Oh my gosh, that's
when
funny.
she wants to watch Frozen.
She doesn't. She hasn't quite grasped that difference. What a season is versus.
Yeah. We haven't corrected her because it's cute.
Back to
anyway,
the
so I'm
Future,
just the
season
opposite
2.
of. I'm just the opposite of what Leonard said in The Big Bang Theory. I'm Kirk over Picard, but Next Gen over the original trilogy.
Series.
I'm mixing my metaphors.
Yes, but
I don't think it's a metaphor.
But
I'm mixing my shows.
The original cast,
Kirk.
the original cast films over the Next Generation films.
So one of your biggest complaints that you often lament to me, you complain to me about this all the time, and I always go, "Come on, man." No, I don't say that, but what I say is that I respond by saying that doesn't.
You do.
I don't
like
care
Biden?
about that.
Come on, man.
Oh, that's right. I say, "Come on, man." I don't know. I can't do a Biden.
Come on, man.
But you say the lack of originality. You talk about the lack of originality in Hollywood being one of your biggest complaints.
That's what I'm saying.
Is that your Biden? We just lost everybody.
What?
Everybody's like, what are they doing? So lack of originality. And I always reply to you because it annoys you that everything's a remake or a sequel or a prequel.
That's all we have. We have these same stories being regurgitated over and over and over. Look, Disney Plus. What is Disney Plus doing with original content at all?
I don't know. I don't have
what
Disney
original
Plus, so
content is Disney Plus putting out? None.
It depends on how you define original. But realistically,
their best programs by far are the live action Star Wars series. And yet those are
once again I can't speak to that.
But those are
we had
those
it.
are
We had it like a year ago.
regurgitated stories. What I mean by that is they come from a universe that has been told to us now since 1977.
Yeah, but I don't know. Telling a story on Earth is also regurgitating
the story
on
now.
Earth.
Now, The Mandalorian.
That doesn't mean the story's not original. Just that
is
it's set in the
completely
Star
original.
Wars universe.
The Mandalorian's completely
original.
original.
It's original. Exactly.
But he's still.
It's not completely
still
original.
A character.
Like it's derivative.
Well, no,
and it's based a lot. It's based a lot on the Clone Wars cartoon, and there's a lot of things.
I never watched that.
A lot of referential stuff. So it's not.
I'm 51 years old.
I didn't watch it all, but I watched a lot of it. with my kids because I have kids now. I have young kids. So
Yeah, you have that excuse.
Dale wasn't old enough.
You
yet.
had that excuse, but they don't. So you got Hollywood sucks. They have a new series, She-Hulk. She-Hulk, Attorney at Law. That's the name of the series.
Yeah.
It looks absolutely stupid. It looks dumb. It looks like they are.
Before I
trying
comment
too
on
hard.
before I comment on that, let me, because that's going to lead down a rabbit hole. Let me finish what I was saying. And my response to you saying that there's nothing original is always, I don't care about that. Like, original is not why I love a movie or not. Like, if it's original or not is not even in the, it's not even in the deck as to whether or not I like it. I'm okay with, what are you doing?
Fixing
there?
my camera because I can't slouch down and be. It looks like I'm like my shoulders and head are the only thing that's in the camera.
Right. The originality of it is not, if they'd make good shows, if they just make really, really great, entertaining, well written, well acted, not putting in things that are offensive, just making good movies.
Why is Stranger Things?
I could care less if it's
Why
a
is
remake.
Stranger Things the highest rated, most watched streaming show? Why was 18?
I don't think that's
why was
completely because of
1880?
originality.
No, but it was original.
Yeah, but I don't think that's why it's the most one of the
Why
most
was
watched
Game of
and why people
Thrones
like
at the
it so
time? Why
much.
was Game of Thrones
Like-
and The Sopranos? Why were those all the highest rated shows when they
Well,
when they
Game of
aired?
Thrones was based on a book, so it wasn't.
But it
necessarily
hadn't been
original.
made into a film. It wasn't a remake. It wasn't a sequel.
But yeah, I just don't think, Stranger Things, the reason why Stranger Things did so good is, first of all, it was very, very similar sort of thing to doing a remake or a sequel or something like that, is that it played on sentimentality by doing the 80s. And so it wasn't a remake, it wasn't redoing a show, but it was redoing feel, and it was doing that same sort of buying into people's sentiment, which is a lot of the reasons why things aren't original in Hollywood right now, is because they're trying to play on people's sentiment, which is a problem if that's all they're doing. But Stranger Things was successful and good because it was well written and well acted and
Totally
well-filmed
original
and
storyline.
had a great
Totally
story.
it's
But if
original
it had been a
storyline.
remake of something and had still been really well done in the same way, and had
I
the
would
same
still
great
have my
acting
same
and the
criticisms
great-
of it.
I'd still
I'd
like
still have
it.
my same. Look. We both loved Top Gun 2, Top Gun Maverick. We both loved it. It was a phenomenal
Who didn't,
film.
right?
Did
Did anybody
doesn't?
not love it?
was so
Even my
well
mom
done.
liked it.
It was so
So,
well
yeah.
done. But it was a sequel, and I still have the same criticisms about it. Why is it that the best movie of this year is a sequel? Now, we can.
And I have no problem with it. The fact that it's
It was a
sequel.
great
Like,
film.
It's great.
But I want
It's a
to
great
see
show.
an original film do just as well. That's what I want to see.
Right.
And
Yeah, and I understand wanting original content. I just don't know that that's really my complaint about Hollywood. Like, if I was going to say what my top 5 complaints about Hollywood, originality does not play into it. It's just it's like, sure, original content's great, coming up with new properties, new IPs, all that stuff. That's great. I like the idea of those sorts of things, but it's not really the problem. That's not happening is not the problem. But I do think that it's tied into what the problem is of why that is because Hollywood is a cash cow and they want to sell a sure thing. I mean, that's what they're trying to do, is they're trying to buy properties that they already know are popular, because then
they just
believe,
mash them into the ground.
but then they
They
destroy
destroy
them.
them.
And that's the problem.
They're-
Is they buy them because they think people are going to buy it on the property alone. They're going to say, "Hey, we bought Star Wars." Going back to Disney, we bought Star Wars, and now we're going to
make it part of the parks. They've got an expensive as all get out hotel there now. They've got all of their merchandise. They've got all of these things. And look, I make some money based on their merchandise. So, but however, they're pounding this thing into the ground, and then you look at what's the next movie? The next Indiana Jones, is that the Indiana Jones and
The five?
Yeah, I think it's
That's coming up, or
what is
the-
it? Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Geriatrics. Um,
Have they named it yet? No, I see what
I
you're
don't
saying.
know if they've named it or not. The dude's like 78 years old,
I don't think they
so
have.
he's really old. They're gonna have to push him around in a wheelchair, and they're doing it just.
Well, worse than that, the rumor is that they're going to the female who stars in it.
Is supposed to
which I
take the
can't remember
reins?
her name right now. So the rumor is that it's a time traveling story, and that she and he time travel back in time, and they end up in the 30s with the de-aged Harrison Ford, the young version of Harrison Ford, of Indiana Jones rather, and then both the old and the young Indiana Jones die, and then the female takes up the hat and literally becomes the new adventurer who will be the Indiana Jones in the 30s, even like totally replacing Indiana Jones.
What?
Overlord DVD.
So that's exactly what they
credit.
So look at
Credit to Overlord DVD for that.
look
rumor.
how they did. Look
think
how they
DVD,
destroyed
Overlord.
the original characters of Star Wars. The original actors: Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, and Mark Hamill. Look how they destroyed them. Look how they destroyed their characters in those movies. And it was all to bring these new characters, and that's exactly now what. If that's true, I'm done. I'm done. I won't go see it.
Yeah,
won't go see
no
it.
one will, and that's what's phenomenal. Now, there's rumors.
Just like they didn't go see
There's
the Star Wars films, and why people started ragging on Star Wars, but the writers.
I'm trying to look the guy's name up because I feel bad giving credit to him if I'm saying his name wrong. That's terrible of me. But the latest rumor is that they're reworking it, that it's being reworked. So we don't know for
Yeah,
sure.
what they ought to do is
and
they
that
ought to
have
take
multiple endings.
a match
But-
to it, throw it in a trash can, throw the match in there, burn it, and bring somebody else in to write the story. Not George
funny
Lucas.
story, by the
not
way,
George Lucas.
About a funny story about Top Gun 2. So my mother goes on walks with a friend, and she had this friend tell her, you got to go see it. It's really great, but you have to watch the first one first, because the first one's great too. And so my mom went and watched the first
I know how this.
Top
I know how
Gun.
this went.
Any guesses on how my mom
I
felt
have
about the
a
original
strong
Top Gun?
feeling that she hated it.
She hated it. Yeah, she really hated it. And she kind of hates it for the same reason that I hate it. Though I don't hate it. I think it's not that great. We've talked about that before where you really love it, but I believe the reason you love it is purely sentiment, because on an objective level,
Yes.
it's not that great of a story. Because what happens is you have this cocky, arrogant fighter pilot who has his wingman. Spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen Top Gun, by the way.
It came out in 1985. If you have not
yeah,
seen
I
Top
think we're
Gun,
safe. We're safe.
that is not our fault.
He has his wingman die, and so then he loses confidence, and then in the end the resolution is that he gains his cocky confidence back. That's the story arc. It's like really
but
really
he
dumb.
was holding his friends his dog tags. You have to understand that was that
Doesn't
that
he
is
throw him?
one
Doesn't he throw him into the
at
ocean?
the end, yeah. So that's one thing
Yeah.
that I actually
And a tear came to everyone's eye.
that's one thing that I did not like about the sequel. Is the sequel had his son at the very end doing the same thing that Maverick did in the first film, which was not get into the fight. And then he said, "Talk to me, Dad. Talk to me, Dad." Just the way Tom Cruise said, "Talk to me, Goose. Talk to me,
Right.
Goose." That I did not
Yeah,
like.
there were a
That
few
was
things
one thing
about
that
it.
I didn't like about it. But the rest of the film, awesome. And might I say,
Yeah, I actually had a
might
problem
I say
with
that the female interest in this film was way better looking than Kelly McGillis.
one of the other complaints. They're minor complaints because I've really enjoyed it. But one of the things that I did think was problematic too is that I think that they should have had I can't remember his call sign, but Goose's son. I I think they should have had him do something to prove
It was
himself.
Egg, wasn't it? Is it Egg?
Goose's son is
Egg?
Egg.
Yeah.
Gosling.
Yeah.
It was Gosling, I believe. They should have had him do something to prove how great he was, because Tom Cruise, Maverick, is struggling over whether he's going to choose him to be his main guy or not, and have him go. Why, if he hasn't proven himself? Why did he decide to let him go?
It was nepotism.
He never,
it was complete.
He
nepotism.
never. Yeah, it ended up being total nepotism, and I guess there's still a valid.
Well,
message
no, I
there
mean,
that he
no,
overcame.
actually, it wasn't. If you remember in the film, and okay, again, if you have not seen Top Gun Maverick, turn your sound off to whatever for the next little bit. The reason why he had held his son back was because he made a promise to his mother that he would protect him.
Right.
That's why. It wasn't because he was
Well,
concerned.
I think that was only half of why. I think it was that, and then
I
also
think
that he
knew full
himself
well
felt like a father figure, and he worried about
him. He wanted to. He felt responsible. He felt responsible for his best friend's son, and he didn't want his son to face the danger. It wasn't because he was. He didn't have confidence in his abilities. It was just because of that. The kid had confidence, did not have confidence in his own abilities because of what Maverick did, not realizing why Maverick did it.
Right. But yeah, I mean, it was a great show. Even if you have little, complaint here or there about something that wasn't absolutely perfect, which, is any movie 100% perfect? It's still
it was a
really well made
film.
movie.
It was very solid. Loved it.
There's rumors too that that things are being reworked in Hollywood regarding all the failures. Failure is a relative term and stuff, but you've seen these movies not perform consistently,
because they're woke,
not perform as well as they should. Well, Hollywood getting the message that the reason why they're not performing well is because they're woke. That's been a hard road coming, and to an extent is still a challenge, because they still make excuses. With the pandemic happening at the same time, the pandemic obviously had a big hit on how well movies performed, and so they're putting out these woke movies at the same time that the pandemic comes out, and so it's very easy for them to say when a show doesn't perform as well as they thought it was going to say, well, people aren't coming back to the movies quite yet.
What?
But then you have these movies like Top Gun and Spider-Man
well.
and that do extremely well. And so the rumor is, of course, like the canceled Batgirl movie was related to, they came down and they said, look, we can't do this. It's not selling. And they just
because
canned the whole thing. I think it was probably a bad movie, but I have no doubt that it was extremely woke as well.
Probably.
And
well,
so,
and it's really hard to criticize, because you did say if the movie's really good. The Mission Impossible films, almost every single one of those has been so solid. They got so much better after the second one. They got so much better.
And even the second one's good. It's got some flaws.
Yeah.
It's got some silliness, but it's still, it's fun to watch. I enjoy it. But yeah, they got really good. A lot of people complain about the third one, but the fourth, fifth, and sixth ones are all super solid.
Very solid. And so when you have that, it is a sequel.
And the new one looks incredible.
But I just don't understand what the fascination is, though. Why are they fascinated in regurgitating old stories and content?
Well, once again, it's not so much fascinated in regurgitating.
They keep doing it. That means they're fascinated.
They're fascinated with the money they think they can make by doing it, because they think it guarantees a sale. They think if we find a property, and this is across lots of different mediums, they think if we find a property that's popular, we can monetize that. We can turn that into money.
So it is really interesting.
So that's why they keep doing it.
Interesting that people are so nostalgic for the 80s right now. I mean, I
know I am, and it's funny because my nostalgia goes right to the 80s, before even all that sort of stuff. Like, I find myself drawn to 80s things in really kind of interesting ways, and I guess just like people my age kind of all have the same sort of sentiment about the 80s. And the 80s, here's the thing about the 80s were terrible. Like, they were just awful. Like, if you portray the 80s like they really were. What was that? If you portray the 80s the way they really are, with the metalheads and the parachute pants and the big hair and the...
Well, you're saying that fashion sucked, but that doesn't mean that they were terrible.
A lot of the movies sucked. A lot of the greatest movies ever came out of the 80s, but a lot of the movies were terrible too. And moreover,
We
I
just
think
got done talking about Top Gun. It
Yeah,
came
Top
out in
Gun was-
1985. What else came? 1984, The Goonies. Or was that 1985?
yeah, Top Gun though, as
Two of
as
the
I've
three
stated, is
original
not a
Star
great
Wars
movie.
films came out in the 80s. Two of the Indiana Jones movies
Yeah,
came
no,
out in the 80s.
no question. Some of my very favorite movies are 80s movies. I love
Back
80s
to the
movies.
Future.
And I love even a lot of the sentiment, but there's a lot of garbage from the 80s too. Like we're nostalgic about 80s music, for example.
Yeah.
The synth music came into being, and there was a lot of these what they called mod at the time,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
I don't remember the other
You
phrase
too,
for it. New age,
you
I
too,
guess.
man. You too
And,
made its height in the 80s.
And we remember the great stuff, but what we forget is how much terrible stuff there was that was popular too. There was so much of that kind of music. The music was oversaturated, and most of it was trash. Like most of the music was
Like
just
a
not
virgin.
good.
Ooh. Oh wait, that's Michael Jackson though. He did the ooh.
That's trashy in a different way.
The greatest, and
Madonna.
still considered, amazingly, the greatest music video of all time is Michael Jackson's Thriller.
But yeah, people are really they're really drawn to their. It's probably just the generation. We're Generation X, right? And Generation X is the people with money now, right? We're the ones who have solid careers, have developed our careers enough.
Well,
that
we're the
good
ones in
income.
Hollywood making all the films.
We're the homeowners. We're the people making films in Hollywood. Our age.
The
group
80s
is
was a
the ones-
cultural
So,
revolution
yeah.
in a way. The 60s absolutely broke the mold, but the 80s were a cultural.
Well, so did the 50s.
Well, yes, but the in rock and roll, not in
And so did
films,
the
but in
70s.
rock and roll.
The 90s were a waste, though. We could take the 90s and just light a
I
match.
would like
and-
to take that, especially
90s is
yes,
awful.
Yes, Gone, See Ya, Titanic. Sorry, nice to know you, but goodbye. But
Well,
Forrest Gump.
the basic,
Forrest Gump.
basically,
Forrest Gump was good.
the summary of the 90s and what the 90s was can be defined by the existence of Beavis and Butthead.
That 70s show,
Burn it.
The Simpsons,
What, for the
Star
90s?
Trek: The Next Generation.
Yeah, but they don't represent the 90s, those
But
things.
they were in the 90s.
Yeah. There was good stuff. There was some good stuff, and there's even some good music in the 90s, but as an overall decade.
Look, I'll tell you one thing that
not a
was
fan.
really good about the 90s, and it's
Grunge
it's one of the-
music,
oh,
man.
forget it.
Oh.
One of the things that I love about the 90s, absolutely love it, and we haven't had it since, is we had a Congress that forced the President of the United States. I don't know if you hear this in the background, but my son's making dinner, so it's late here. It's 9:00, and so we're trying to. He's been sitting around for 2 hours wanting to eat, but we have a Congress that forced the President of the United States, Bill Clinton, to balance the budget. And for 3 years,
Right.
this country had a balanced budget, and we were actually reducing the debt of the country. But that's another subject. We are still talking about
I would
Hollywood.
like to say we've gotten way off target here.
We're still
Yeah,
talking
that's-
about the 90s. We're still talking about this Hollywood thing, though. This wokeism that they have gone to is ridiculous.
Well, and I'm starting to have just a modicum of hope. Just this much, a little bit
As
of hope.
long as people like Tom Cruise make movies like Top Gun Maverick, and it shows the rest of Hollywood, see, this is how you make a film. It's not political. It's just good storytelling.
So the problem is this: if we were a big enough podcast, I might not even say this just in case someone listened to it and realized I was right, because this is what I think is going to happen though. So instead of adapting the get woke, go broke idea and taking the woke out of their content, I think what's going to happen instead is that Hollywood is going to start learning how to do it better. They're not going to remove the woke. They're just going to learn how to make better movies with the woke in it. Right now, they're making these woke movies, and they're doing it to the exclusion of making great movies. And you hear a lot of other entertainment commentators saying, they're like, I don't care about that as long as they'd make a good movie. I don't care about the politics as long as they'd make a good movie. And I'm like, no, I care about that. I don't want that stuff in my movies. But I think that's what's going to happen. And you saw an example of that is as we already mentioned, Stranger Things. Stranger Things has some stuff in it that's very woke and nonsense. Like, it's just totally utter nonsense. Some of the stuff that they put in Stranger
because
Things
it
doesn't
went
even
woke.
make sense
Because it went woke
for the 80s. And it's the 80s. It was just
and they did not have
that
those things
way.
in the 80s. It doesn't represent the 80s
Well,
at all.
they had it. They had
It was
it,
not
just the way that people
mainstream.
interacted
It wasn't
with
mainstream.
it. Yeah.
It wasn't accepted. Look, we will live through this.
But moreover, I think it's not so much about whether they had it or not. It's about whether or not, when you're trying to make a show that's sentimentally about the 80s, and then you put something in it that's
a big deal now, but wasn't
referential to now.
Yes, it wasn't a big deal then. It was
that
a big
what
deal
it
now.
does is it takes you out of the sentiment and the feeling of the 80s and takes you out
Now
of the
they
show
are
and makes it
interjecting
feel
modern day culture and
it
putting
feels like they're
yes.
trying to make a political
Yep.
point. If you made a show about homosexuality in the 80s and you addressed it from the point of view of the 80s,
which
and
was typically
you
humor.
dealt with it
which
real,
was typically humor. It was done. It was
well,
done
I'm
humor.
saying like in reality, like someone who was actually struggling with that and was, abused by it and had to keep it secret and stuff like that. In a real way, you could make an interesting drama about it. Probably, I wouldn't be interested in watching it necessarily, but that doesn't mean it couldn't be a good show.
It should represent the sentiment of the time period.
But when you're doing something that's pop culture and it's trying to do pop culture 80s as it's feeling, and then you stick something modern in, it takes you out of it, and it took me out of it. And so I thought it was actually a pretty big weakness to the show, and yet, and I think it actually hurt season 3 quite a bit when they did that at the end, because it was such a dumb
it's like
story
having
move.
a female warrior in the Comanche Nation back in the day, before reservations, before technology, before the Industrial Revolution, and having her be the one taking on the predator in this new
Right.
movie, The Prey. It's unrealistic, and it just goes to
Which we should talk about that in a second, because that's an interesting theme too. But let me finish this up real quick. Season 4 of Stranger Things was phenomenal. It was really, really good.
I
even
told
though
you it was the best one. It was the best one.
Yeah, even though it had the woke stuff in it, that's where I think things are going to go. Is they're not going to stop putting the woke stuff in. They're just going to get better at it, and so they're
going to get better at putting the woke stuff in it, or they're going to get better at creating good content.
They're going to get better at not letting the woke hurt the quality of their shows. Because right now they're so focused on the woke that they do the woke to the exclusion of creating a great show. And I think they're going to learn how to make great shows with the woke. And
well,
so
that's what destroys
them. I don't think that's
what destroys them. That's why there was so much criticism about things like Star Wars: The Last Jedi, and all of the renditions of the latest Star Wars movies, because they went woke on all of them, and they're doing the same thing with beloved characters. You've got the new Thor movie, and look, I know that was in the comics, but that comic also came out in the 70s, where there you had the female Thor.
Well, I don't know, but
I mean, you have.
Well, let me ask you, I kind of alluded to this earlier when we were talking before the show, but what is the point? Why are they doing that? Like, I don't, and I'm talking specifically, not woke in general. I understand that, but specifically the girl power.
It is
thing.
the destruction
like,
of the.
What's the objective?
The destruction and the tearing down of the male in society. This goes back to the.
But how does it? So like
it's
a girl.
The paternal order of things. They want to destroy.
You put a girl into a movie that is, more talented, stronger fighter, just whips the butts of all the men in the show, right? She's just the toughest thing there, right? And especially like say for example, a superhero show where she's super tough because of some, power or magic or something like that. What's the message? Why do they feel that's important? Does that somehow make it in real life that girls walk away from that thinking that they can go punch a guy and beat him up and be successful in that? Because I don't think that's the case. Girls are still going to generally know that guys are bigger and stronger, and guys are not going to walk away from that thinking, oh my gosh, girls could beat me up, I better watch out for them. Like, nobody's fooled by that and thinks that women are actually stronger than men. So why? What's the point behind the messaging? Like, I really don't understand that. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, you're pretending. It's wishful thinking. You're pretending that something is is possible, and you do it to the point of emasculating men, and that's really, I think, the goal in this is it's really the emasculation of men.
Okay.
In
Well, so do you mean by that, like, okay, so I don't, if I watch Superman, a movie Superman, like I don't, I'm old enough now that I don't go dream that I can fly anymore, but I did as a young, young boy. I remember distinctly having, kind of waking dreams sort of thing where I'd imagine myself as I was falling asleep or something. I'd imagine that I was flying. And that was really cool and stuff. So is that kind of what you're getting at? Is that girls might be imagining in a fantasy type way that they could be super strong?
No,
and
it's
tough and beat up
affirming.
guys,
It's
or?
affirming. It's not. It's not so much about imagining.
But it doesn't
it's,
affirm. That's my point.
It's
Is it doesn't
affirming.
affirm. If you watch Scarlett Johansson do the things that she does as Black Widow, no girl walks away from that thinking, "Oh,
But it is.
I could
It is
punch a guy and knock him
affirming
down, too."
a falsehood.
Well, maybe some
No,
do, but
it's
deluded.
affirming a falsehood. So you have especially in collegiate sports now, where you've got in high schools and collegiate sports, where you've got a lot of transgenders who are competing. And notice that it's always a guy.
It's the guy.
It's always
yeah.
a
See, and that makes
guy
more
competing.
sense. Like a guy goes into girls
Because
sports
he can
because
dominate
he knows
in
he can
all
do
of it.
better.
A girl's not going to come
You're
over to
not
guys'
typically
sports.
seeing girl coming to
No girl's going, I really want to compete in a guy's sport because I think I'm gonna prevail. You have these guys who are pretty average. They're nothing special in their competitions with the other guys. They then identify as girls, and they go and they compete in their sports, and they dominate. They all
And they do way better,
dominate, and they take it all away from women. And this is what really gets me is I don't understand. You got one part of this society that is fighting to make women stronger, yet at the same time they are fighting for the rights of men to beat women at their own game.
Yeah. No, it makes no sense. But it'd make more sense in the movies, like when they do power women in, say, like business settings, like a woman is the boss, or making the president a woman, or something like that. Like those sorts of things, the messaging makes sense at least.
Yeah,
even though
because it happens,
in today's
because
culture,
because it's reality.
because it's potential, yeah. And even now things have gone so woke that even those sorts of things, like if you did 20 years ago you make a woman president and everybody would be like, cool. Now you make a show with a woman the president and everybody that's not woke goes, they're trying to force a message
Of
down
course
their
they're
throat.
making that happen.
And
yeah. Mm-hmm.
and so it's become sort of an issue, even though it shouldn't be in that regard. But that makes sense. At least it makes sense to have women do something that they're capable of. But to make this false narrative that women can be just as strong as men, like I've never understood it. I never understood what, and I don't have a problem. Just so
Okay,
we're
look,
clear for anyone
I
listening.
am not.
I don't have a problem with women being great fighters and stuff. In fact, I like Black Widow. I even liked Black Widow movie. I thought it was fun. So I don't have a problem with that at all. I just don't understand the point of doing it for political reasons.
Okay, so I think there should be something said. I'm not a big guy. There's probably a lot of women that could kick my butt.
Just flex.
Yeah,
and then everyone
no,
will think
yeah.
you are.
There's a lot of women that could probably look. Ronda.
I'm tall,
Ronda,
but I'm
Rousey
scrawny.
would beat me to a pulp. Absolutely beat me to a pulp.
Probably would me too. Yeah.
But the idea that someone as small as, let's say, Scarlett Johansson is, she is fairly small, and you have her going up against guys who apparently have, in the film, who have the same skill sets, which means they are fighters. These are military people,
Right.
and they are trained as well. The premise that she would take them down with almost no competition being dealt back to her, or resistance that she couldn't handle, is ridiculous.
Yeah, and like I said, that doesn't bother me per se, because I don't think that when they did Black Widow as a character, I don't think there was a woke message. Like, it wasn't for woke messaging that they did that. She's a legacy comic book character, and it's cool. I like Black Widow as a character. It doesn't bother me at all. It's the messaging that bothers me, but moreover, the messaging doesn't make sense to me in that regard. Like, if you're putting a cool character, because theoretically there's the idea that a female character, if she was skilled enough, could take down someone who is a lot bigger and stronger than
If
she
she
is.
gets in
And so
the lucky punches.
I could accept that, and especially if she's using weapons and stuff too. Yeah. So I could accept that as a premise, and I can even accept a stretch of that. I don't mind stretching the action. What's reasonable and what would happen in real life. In real life, you punch someone, they don't fly 10 feet. Like, it just, no matter how strong you are, people don't fly 10 feet when you punch them. Physics just doesn't work that way. I'm okay with it, though. I'm okay with a little bit of that, wire foo or whatever you call it, because it's fun. It's fun to watch. It's fun to incorporate that sort of thing. And I don't even mind it with females and stuff. But when you're putting that sort of thing in, and I watched the trailer after you told me about that Prey.
Yeah. But the Predator,
movie,
yeah.
Which I'm not interested in watching the movie itself, but yeah, I
You
feel
said it was boring.
like I felt very much like putting it into
a period piece,
and then making the warrior a female back in Comanches, is what you said?
Yeah, Comanche Nation.
It feels so much.
She's
like
she's the warrior protecting her tribe.
Like, it doesn't feel like they did it because they thought it'd be cool. It feels like they did it because they're trying to say
woke.
girl power.
Yeah, it's woke. It's feminism.
To what end?
Yeah.
Like, women that watch that are going to think that they are going to be better warriors.
Look, if you are a
Maybe,
woman
and
you are watching this and listening to this right now, just know how much we love you.
Not all of you.
No, there are some women I definitely don't love.
Wait, no. Let me rephrase that, because we talked about in our last podcast that we need to love everyone. So yes, I love everyone. I just don't like anyone.
There are some women I really do not like, but
love your neighbor.
But that's a
even if you don't like
that's a really good that's a really good thing, because even though I personally have been treated really horribly by some women, and I don't like them, I did not respond the same way that they treated me. I either ignored it, I rose above it, and I decided to treat them differently. And I think that's important. But back to the Hollywood thing, I think that what Hollywood has got to really kind of grasp is that they've got to stop interjecting their political ideologies into film. They've got to stop trying to make a statement.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to, though.
But that's the problem, though, is they're trying to make a statement.
Like I said, I think they're going to get better at it.
They're going to get better at making a statement?
Mm-hmm. Get better at doing it in a way that's entertaining and people buy it. Continue to corrupt the culture accordingly.
Could be. Well, that's why you hope that things like what...
I mean, like, you look at... We're a little bit... what's the word? Callous to it. We're numb to the fact that Hollywood's always been doing this. Hollywood, the movies in the 80s, some of the movies that we adore, if you look at them objectively, and especially you notice it when you watch it as a parent, they have some terrible messaging and terrible morals. And Hollywood's long been pushing some of these things down the, pushing it on the culture. And, they do it little by little. It's that once again the frog boiling put a frog in cold water and then let it boil slowly and the frog doesn't jump out, sort of thing. And that's what the culture does. Little by little, we just let Hollywood inject these bad ideas into our lives, and we accept them little by little. And what's happened is recently, fairly recently, within the past 5 to 10 years, is Hollywood made a big surge ahead. And I think Trumpism had a lot to do with that, as there was a response to what happened with Trump. But I think it's more than just that. But there was this surge ahead where Hollywood started pushing it beyond the little by little boiling thing. And I think they've overstepped themselves a little bit. I think they've made some mistakes. We saw what happened with Disney and their commentary, the leaked videos about how they have a secret gay agenda, and their comments against the bill in Florida, and they got some backlash, and Disney has been losing business. They've lost a lot of stock value, and I think they showed their hand a little bit too soon. But they're not going to stop. Their agenda is not going to change. Disney's not going to step back and say, "Oh, we lost some money. I guess we better be righteous now and not do anything that Christians are going to be offended by." They're not going to do that. But they are going to tiptoe a little bit more carefully They're going to continue to introduce that stuff, but they're going to do it little by little and slowly until people accept it, because that's just the way it is.
That's what they're doing with CRT.
There's going to be gay kisses in all our children's shows,
and it'll be okay. It'll be
transgender
good.
Stuff everywhere. And
yep, they're going to continue taking kids to places that they shouldn't be. Gay bars, transgender bars, whatever. It's not transgender. What's the one where the guys dress up? Drag shows and all that. Yeah. So, but Hollywood, I think what we've got to leave tonight's show about is just go woke and go broke.
It's incredibly disheartening, though. I mean, that's my takeaway from it, is that it's really sad. I mean, especially Disney.
We've got to have a
like
counterculture.
We've got to have we love, both you and I love Disney. Yes. We've loved Disney. We grew up on Disney. Old Disney's wonderful, and even semi-new, like Disney Renaissance stuff. It's a little bit more shallow. Has some messaging problems there too. Little Mermaid is terrible, for example, in the messaging, but not so egregious as it is now. And it's just so disheartening to think that I can't raise my children on this content. When a new Disney movie comes out, there's no way I'm taking my kids to that sight unseen. Like, I have to screen everything that Disney puts out now because of this. And and most of the stuff, I think, moving forward, I'm gonna say, after I screen it, I'm gonna say, yeah, nope, not buying that. Yep. Not letting my kids watch that. Yep. That's not going to be allowed. And that's just really sad to me, because that used to be safe. Pixar used to be safe. It was just like a guaranteed. You knew Pixar was going to be quality and safe. And now you almost can guarantee that Pixar won't be safe, whether it's quality or not. And it's just really sad. So I really hope that they take the go get woke, go broke, message and take it out, at least for a time. But I'm a little bit pessimistic about it. All of it. We'll see. Maybe when they remake the new Batgirl again, they'll make it not woke. Woohoo! Can't wait. Yeah. Because that movie's clearly made for me. I'm make it. That's what the point of this whole episode. Don't make it. Stop it. Do something different. Don't make Batgirl. Stop making Batman. Stop making Batgirl. Stop making Catwoman. Stop making these films. Stop. I'm okay with it, man. Make them. I'm not. Just make them good. No, I'm not. Get the woke out. No, we've had an entire decade of. Bring Henry Cavill back. What now? 14 years of bombarding, a bombardment of superhero films. I'm done. Stop it. Give us something different. Start something new. Yeah. Give us a new trend. I'm done, but not for that. Give us a new trend. The reason I'm done is because of all the woke stuff. Give us a new trend to follow. If they kept making movies like they did, like making these great movies like they did, 10 years ago, I'd still be in. I still look forward to the idea of the universe and still like it, but they put this stuff in that just makes me like, I don't want to watch that. I don't want to see that. Give us a new trend. And one last argument before we go. I want them to reboot Indiana Jones. No, I don't. With a new actor. Yeah, you and I have been over this. I know you don't want to. And I know that's going to be majorly controversial. I don't even want them to make. I don't want them to make this one. I want them to leave it alone. I want them to stop and be done with it. But they won't. They'll reboot it. They'll put a new actor in it and stuff. If they just do it without the wokeism, I'd be really excited. But I'm not excited about much of anything anymore because they're putting crap in everything. I just think Hollywood's, gonna have to be dead to me in a lot of ways. Like, very few and far between when there's going to be movies that I'm going to be okay with. So, anyway, like and subscribe. Thanks for joining us again. Comment down below. Like and subscribe. Yep. We really appreciate it. It helps even if you don't like what we have to say, which some of the stuff we had to say you probably didn't like. I didn't like everything we had to say tonight. So maybe I'll dislike our video today. Dislike our own. It helps. Dislike our own video. Yeah. Comment negatively on our own video. This really sucked. This video was silly. You guys are full of crap. But leave some comments about your thoughts about Hollywood and whether it's doomed or not, and subscribe and give us your support if you're willing, and if you're not, then go jump in a lake. We don't want you anymore.
And with that,
We do.
we love you. Good night.
Good night.